Hey, Bulls and Bears, what is going on? It is Monday night. It is November 14th, 2022. Another late night video. Thank you for being here. You may be watching this on Tuesday, November 15th, but I am putting it out on Monday night. We've got some news to cover here, and I want to hear from you on this. This is pretty amazing that not more people are talking about this. All right, first of all, there's two big stories I want to cover. First of all, this was covered out of oil price, several other websites. Central banks are buying gold at the fastest pace in 55 years. Central banks are buying gold the fastest pace in over 50 years. Gold demand has soared back to pre-pandemic levels. Amongst the largest buyers were the central banks of Turkey, uh, Uzbekistan, Qatar, and India. What is going on? We heard from central banks, 10 years ago, just after the financial crisis, that gold was a barbarous relic, that it's not real money. I think there was somebody from Congress out there talking to Ben Bernanke, asking him if he thinks gold is money. Ben Bernanke said no, it's a barbarous relic, that basically they create the money. So why are central banks hoarding gold and buying gold at the fastest pace in 55 years and not just printing up a bunch of paper money, loading it on pallets and putting it in warehouses somewhere? Right, folks? Something big is going on. And I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow, next week. I don't put timelines out there. But within the very near future, I'll say that there's going to be something happening with the US dollar. And there's going to be something else happening, dominating and coming into dominance, I should say, taking over the US dollar. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen incrementally. In our previous report, we talked about all these nations that are getting together to trade outside of the US dollar. We've got the BRICS nations. 12 more nations are going to be looking to sign on to that. It's very likely that that's going to happen. So we're going to have well over half of the world's population trading outside of the dollar. What's that going to mean for the dollar? I mean, you look at inflation now. What happens when the dollar is no longer the big daddy around the world, around the globe? This could be huge, and I'm not saying it's going to be Zimbabwe, Venezuela, here in the United States, but I would really start thinking about what's going to happen if these BRICS nations keep expanding and more nations keep jumping on board. Why are central banks also buying gold? Why have other countries talked about using gold as a part of their trading system? Some things are happening. This should be front page news. Let's transition a little bit here. The IMF says global economic outlook getting gloomier. That's the IMF. That's not me saying that. People say I'm doom and gloom. This is the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Wow, gloomier, doom and gloom. You see it. You see the similar words here. People call me doom and gloom, but yet I'm not the ones saying this. It's the IMF. The global economic outlook is gloomier than projected. Last month, the International Monetary Fund said, citing a worsening in purchasing manager surveys in recent months. It blamed the darker outlook on tightening monetary policy triggered by persistently high and broad-based inflation, weak growth momentum in China, and ongoing supply disruptions, food insecurity caused by the war. Okay, it's the war. Everything is because of the war. The economy is not doing good. It's because of the war. Before the war, everything was fine. Nobody had any debt. There was no problems. The U.S. debt wasn't over 29 trillion before the war, and now it's 31 trillion. But there was no debt before the war. The 31 trillion just popped up, right when the war came out. Right? It's absolutely nuts, insane that they want you to sit there and believe this and think that the war is even a big part of the problem. Sure, it's a part of some of the food inflation that we've seen. The farmers are really suffering because of the cost of fertilizer. There was big exports that came out of that part of the world where the war is at. It's nuts, folks. Another article. Let's move over to this one here. This one. Here we go. The Financial Express plus many other news outlets reported this. Global debt levels rose substantially in 2021, according to the World Bank. So we have these countries, most countries around the world, buried under debt. The solution by the deciders was to give more loans to these countries. This is it's clown world. It's clown world. Give more loans to these countries to help them with their debt problem. What are loans? Loans are issuing debt when you have to pay something back. Interest is attached to these loans. It's not free money. Interest is always attached, isn't it, from a bank? Um, Amazing. It's amazing that the people that are behind this really think that this is the solution. So let's say you have too much debt. Is your solution going to be taking out more credit cards? Right now, don't get me wrong, it may be a lifeline when it comes to household budgets, personal finance, taking out a credit card, consolidating debt at a lower interest rate with a balance transfer offer. That may be a temporary solution if you're making enough to pay down the principal. If you're not spending more than you're paying off each month, then okay, that could be a solution. But most households are not in that position. Most households are spending more than they're paying off each month, getting deeper in debt. And it's not just me saying that. That was a survey. We talked about that a week and a half ago. 75% of households say they're worse now than they were 2 years ago. But yet nobody is questioning that the economy is not all that we're being told. The economy is not all it's cracked up to be. 50 countries in danger of bankruptcy. Also, the UN is out there saying the same thing. Where's the global economic recovery? Why is global debt now $300 trillion? And it's probably a lot worse than that when you look at derivatives. The derivatives put out by Deutsche Bank and some of these other mega institutions, it's so off the charts that people don't even know how much of it is out there. They're talking about quadrillions because the numbers are so huge and so enormous, even economists can't even wrap their heads around it. So I watch interviews and I watch people talk about this, and nobody knows the answer to exactly how much debt is out there because it's so leveraged. And you have debt on top of debt on top of debt. It's just it's amazing. The interbank lending from this article here, we need to inject targeted liquidity into countries to be able to invest in energy solutions. Targeted liquidity, what does that mean? That means loans. Now, what's been the lifeline for the United States for being under these just mountains of debt? The world's largest debtor nation, that's the truth. On the other hand, they want you to think that the U.S. is the world's richest nation. We're the richest nation in the world. How many times have you heard that? Sure, if you look at all the money creation, when you look at our economy, all the spending, which is chalked up as GDP, sure, we're the world's largest economy. Well, China is up there too. But the world's richest nation is also the world's largest debtor nation. Does that make any sense at all to you? So debt is wealth, according to the bankers that that put out these talking points. Debt is wealth. If debt is wealth, then why don't you and I go out and max out all of our credit cards and we'll be wealthy? Well, I guess if you're the United States and you don't have to worry about paying the debt back, when you can just create more money, when you can no longer pay interest on the debt, though, what's going to happen then? And then when you have all these other countries going outside of the US dollar for world trade, what's going to happen to the cost of imports? Are they going to go down or are they going to go up? I'm talking about imports into the United States from these other countries, right? So this is going to get bad, folks. I think we have a big inflation problem. We already have one, obviously, but I think this inflation problem is not going away. We've got the Fed out there putting a kind of a positive tone. That what did they say? They said that let me get the word. Let me think of this word. It's a ridiculous word. They said inflation is moderating. Inflation is moderating. So the Fed, they have a 2% inflation target, but yet we had this lower than expected inflation number that just came out in October. That was good news to the markets. Markets skyrocketed, and because it was lower than expected, but yet it was still over 7%. The Fed funds rate target is, or the Fed target rather, the inflation target is 2%, but the markets love it. The markets took off. Inflation is moderating. What does that even mean? Inflation is still high, and it's likely going to get higher with everything that's going on, but no one's out there warning, sounding the alarm. Folks, buckle up because it's going to get very, very interesting. Dangerous is another word I like to put on it. So keep stacking, keep preparing. What do you think about central banks buying the most gold in over 50 years? What do you think about the 50 plus countries on the verge of bankruptcy and the solution is more debt? Wow. What do you think about what was the other article we looked at here? Global debt levels rose substantially in 2021, according to the World Bank. Sounds like a recovery to me. Economic recovery, baby. All over the place. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Like to hear from you down in comments. Big love. Thanks for being here. Big love. Bye for now. Peace.